Oh, well, let's get started, you guys. I want to be respectful of all of your time, especially our guest speaker this morning. Um, this morning, we've got Derek Schleeps. Is that how you pronounce it, Derek?
Yep, sleeps.
Derek Schleeps. Met Derek a couple weeks ago in Facebook Marketplace in a group, and just connected with him and had some pretty good conversations about what he does and how he does it. We've talked to even our own personal team at possibly looking at some of the stuff that he's doing just to add to our repertoire. And he and I, after conversing, I was like, man, you've got something here. And a lot of our investors that we work with are either just starting out trying to go to that next level, or they've got a business that's operational that are trying to go to that next level. And so I wanted to bring Derek in here and just kind of give you guys some insight, a different perspective on generating leads, motivated seller leads by way of Facebook. And so, Derek, if you would just tell everybody a little bit about you, who you are, where you're at, how long you've been doing this and playing with Facebook ads, and then I'll let you take it away from there.
Yeah, sure. I've been doing this for 3 years now. I've worked with dozens of wholesalers, rehabbers, investors. Basically, I got started. I would actually have a background in coaching gymnastics, believe it or not. Moved kind of into web development, taught myself front and back end web development. Then basically got involved in marketing and pushed myself into the kind of real estate niche for that. And I worked for a couple other agencies. So at one point I was managing like 27 of these accounts at once. And now I'm kind of, doing my own thing, but yeah, that's briefly my background. I'm from Seattle, lived in Japan for a year, which was fun. But basically been here most of my life. So
very cool, man. Very cool. I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things that I like about Derek is he's a man of few words, and what he does share, it can be impactful and powerful. And I wanted you guys to have an opportunity to hear that from him. So, Derek, the next 40 minutes or so are all yours, man. I'll let you kind of take it away. You have the operation to share your screen or do whatever you need to do. If you need any help, just go ahead and holler at me, and I'll be here, man. I appreciate you. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so you said about 40 minutes, is that right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you can all see this, right? The little presentation here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So like this is basically just I've got a whole bunch of information here. I'm going to try to go through as much of it as I possibly can, but this is basically, like I said, my blueprint. And I've just put in a bunch of concepts, ideas, strategies, basically everything that I could kind of fit into one presentation here. So like I said, this is just kind of my little introduction here. That's another photo of me, but I already kind of went over this. So just to get into kind of like an overview of everything that I want to try to cover in this in the time that I have, we'll see how much I can get through it. But and I'm sure that you guys probably have some knowledge or of a lot of this stuff, and so some of this might be new, some of it you might already know. But I kind of want to talk first about like just the psychology of inbound versus outbound leads. Then I've got kind of like a 30,000 foot overview, kind of like a funnel, kind of like a mind map of just the entire system. 4 stages to actually construct and build out that kind of a system. And then what makes a good ad, kind of specific strategies for Facebook and Instagram. Some stuff here on building actually your Facebook page out, what a good page build out looks like, what good content looks like, what you can do when your campaigns burn out, and then just some stuff on follow-up. So it's a lot of information. I'll see how much I can get through. But just to start, so you guys already know this, I'm sure, but basically all leads, doesn't matter what kind of industry you're in, they go through 4 stages, right? From ice cold all the way to hot. So an ice cold lead, basically they don't know that they have a pain, right? They don't know they have a problem they need to solve yet. They maybe don't know that they can't sell their home yet, right? Without a realtor, like they don't know that they have a pain yet. And they've also never heard of you or your business. A cold lead now understands that they have a problem. They know that they need to do this, with help, right? With your help, but they don't know how you can solve their problem. They might have heard of you, but they don't know how you can help them. A warm lead then knows that they have a pain. So they know that they're going to need help solving this problem. They know that they can't do it on their own. And maybe they've interacted with your content, they've seen you, maybe they've had a conversation with you, and now they know that you can actually solve their problem, right? Whereas a hot lead is basically like, okay, I'm basically, I know I need to do this and I'm ready to sell now. So keeping that in mind, this is basically like my overview, right? And I hope that you guys can see this. Let's see if I'm going to try to zoom in here. Let's zoom. There we go. Okay. So basically it kind of starts up here. Like when people first get started in wholesaling investing, right, they're kind of doing outbound outreach, and that's kind of what's represented up here. So basically you get a list of contacts, right? Whether you bought it or it's, driving for dollars, skip trace, and you're doing things like direct mail, ringless voicemail, cold calling, SMS, maybe you're in your Facebook groups, reaching out to people. That's all kind of outbound outreach. Now, an inbound lead, when they are online, they're basically going to be doing one of two things. They're either going to be scrolling, right, through something like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, right? And they could be anywhere from one of those ice cold leads all the way to a hot lead, right? They could be in any of those categories. The other thing a lead could be doing online is searching, right? And if they're searching for someone to help solve their problem, they're most likely a warm to hot lead already. Okay. So when they're searching, they're most likely going to be going to Google, and they're most likely going to be looking at like the top, couple links on there when they do their search for, how do I sell my house fast? Like something like that. And so they're probably going to put their information into like the top one, the second one, and maybe the third. And what's going to happen is when they hit your website and they put that information in, you want to follow up as fast as possible, right? So the whole point on this side of things is basically like trying to streamline and make this process as efficient as you can to capture the lead information and to get like to respond to them as fast as you possibly can. Whereas over here, when a lead is basically on Facebook, Instagram, something like that, we're using something called disruption marketing. So because they're not in that like higher intent, right, state of mind, we're trying to stop them from what they're doing. We're using something called a scroll stopper, which is just an image or something that gets their attention. We're literally trying to get them out of that state, call them out, right? Like call out your audience, like who you're actually speaking to, address their pain points, and then direct them to filling out, right, your lead form, right? So let me zoom out here a little bit. I hope this all makes sense so far. But basically what the way that this works, right, is when you're doing, well, actually I should say YouTube. So YouTube is kind of in between the two, right? Because they could be scrolling. They may be scrolling through videos, but they still have a higher intent a little bit because they're also searching, but they might be searching for something like, how do I sell my house without a realtor, right? Something like that. So you're not only trying to capture that little bit higher intent there, but you're also having to use disruption marketing here. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen video ads on YouTube quite a bit, right? So that is kind of like in between the two. Now, when they go to your website, that's what this is representative. I've seen websites done in a couple ways. So the first way that I've seen websites done is like, if you have like a investor carrot site or something like that, right? And so basically on the first page, you're asking for name, phone number, property address, like the bare minimum things that you need to get them an offer. And then on the second page, then you're asking for more information. The second way that I've seen this done is where, like if you guys have ever been to like an auto insurance, or like when you're searching for auto insurance, right? And you're clicking through the website, and you're basically trying to get a quote, and they make you do like a quiz. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where like you answer one question at a time, and then at the end they say, okay, now if you want your quote, like put your information in, and we'll send you your quote. I've seen that work really well for motivated sellers as well, for like capturing their info, especially through something like Google. And basically it looks something like this, right? Where you're, let me zoom out here. Let's go 50%. So basically where you're asking kind of one question at a time, right? Like you ask the first question, they click on the answer, it goes to the second, the third, and then you can ask up to like 7 of these at a time. When they hit the last one, they might get a pop-up, something like this, right? Or if at any time they get tired of answering these questions and they move their mouse away to click away, the pop-up comes up anyways and captures the info. So those are kind of two different approaches, right? One, you're trying to collect less information on the front end and more on the back. This way, you're trying to capture as much information on the front end first. And then when they're done with that, capture the rest of the info to send them the offer. So back to this. So what we're doing here is if you're doing something like Google, YouTube, something like that, you're obviously going to be sending them to a website or a lander, right? That's made specifically to capture those leads. But for Facebook and Instagram, what you need to do is you need to test. You need to test either sending them off platform to the website or keeping them on platform. Because you got to remember, like these leads, their state of mind, their psychology could be in any of those 4 categories from ice cold to hot. So if you just have someone who's a little bit more cold, they may not want to go off of Facebook, off platform immediately to your website, right? So we test sending them to a lead form on Facebook and also sending them off to your website. Now, the lead form itself, you're going to want to qualify them. So you are going to ask some questions on there. I see too many people, they don't ask enough questions on the lead form. They don't use a high intent, lead form to try to, qualify their leads on there. And so you'll get all kinds of people clicking through if you do that. You don't want that. But basically you put them through a similar kind of survey. You have an opt-in, and all this runs to a thank you page, right? And then that all goes into your CRM. So the leads automatically go into there. And then you have your automated follow-up, whether that's by text, ringless voicemail, email, and then obviously calling the leads, right? Now, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the Facebook pixel or just a pixel in general, but that's what this is representative. And so the pixel is basically, it's a piece of code that you are putting on your website, on your funnel, and that's basically tracking them, right? So if you guys have ever gone, like if you're buying a new car, right, and you're searching online for like, how to buy cars, and you're going to those websites, and then you start seeing car ads following you all over the internet, that's because of a pixel, right? You can have a Google pixel, a LinkedIn pixel, a Facebook pixel, but basically what you want to do is you want to have that pixel installed on the site so that you're tracking people that are hitting your website, whether organically or through paid traffic. That pixel is also going to be tracking information on who's going to your Facebook page, who's clicking on your ad, who's clicking on your lead form on Facebook. And what you can do is you can retarget leads that go from your website, right? And you can actually show them ads on Facebook, the exact same people. The other thing that you can do is you can take all that data that's sitting on the pixel and you can say, hey, Facebook, I have all this data. I want you to basically make another audience that looks very similar to them, but is not the same people, and you can advertise to them. So that's kind of like my big overview. I hope that made sense. I'm going to move here now into kind of the 4 stages to build this out. But basically, like number 1, you need content, right? You need to do content curation. So this is stage 1, where you need to get videos, images, record your ringless voicemails, whatever you're doing, right? And this can be used across multiple platforms. So if you record a good video for your ad, that can be put on your website. It can be used as content on your Facebook page. You can use it on your Instagram. Just, if you have images, right, that can be used in multiple ways. Basically, the ad copy that you write for Facebook, you can use the same ad copy in posts speaking directly to motivated sellers and use that as content on your pages, right? Or stuff that you have on your website, you could pull and you could even use, and vice versa. So that's the first thing, is curate content, get all this together. Number 2, where you want to test, right? So the thing about paid traffic is you have to test. People that get into Facebook, they don't test enough and they don't understand how to test. And that's usually why they're not successful. So the biggest aspect of this is testing, right? You're testing, are you sending them off platform or on platform? Are you testing different ads? You're testing different images, headlines. You're testing even different lead forms. You're trying to figure out what's going to work well for your market, because every market is different and they're not all going to perform the same. The 3rd stage, obviously, is to trim what's not working. When you start to figure out what is not performing, you take that out. And then once you have a system that is producing results that you are happy with, that's where you can start increasing ad spend. Like if you're on Google, you start, maybe increasing your ad spend there. On Facebook, you're going to be adding campaigns. On Facebook, you can't just, it's not like a 1-to-1 correlation where you can just up your ad spend immediately. You have to actually add campaign and kind of do it a little bit. It's a little bit of a slower process, but basically the point is that by that time you should have all this data accumulated, right? And you can start doing retargeting. But it involves some maintenance from there, right? But that's the kind of the stage where you can scale. You start moving into other markets, things like that. Now, let's see, what am I doing on time? Okay, so to create a good ad, these are the things that you want in your ad. Basically, this is kind of the core pieces of creating a good ad for Facebook, and this applies to any kind of marketing that you're doing. So first, I will say though, if you are kind of new to Facebook ads, boosted posts is not what I'm talking about. I think most of you probably know that, but a boosted post is basically when you have a Facebook business page and you just click, boost post to get the post to be seen to more people, right? That subscribe to you. That is not what we're doing. This is actually like, you have a Facebook business manager. So this is business.facebook.com. You have your own ad account in there, and you're running ads from that account, right? The other thing is that there's no one perfect ad, right? Some people think that, okay, I just need the ad and just give me the ad and then I'll be fine. Like you want to be testing new ad copies, new creatives all the time. There are some things that do work better than others, yes, but the key is not to get stuck, because then you're going to get into ad fatigue a little bit faster, which is basically where your ads burn out because the same audience is seeing the same thing over and over and over again. So these are the main 5 things that every good ad should have, right? So you need, like I said, Facebook is disruption marketing. We're trying to get them from their attention on just scrolling, looking at photos, whatever they're doing, to paying attention to you. So you need a scroll stopper, something that's going to get them to stop scrolling. This is usually an image. It could be, how you're using your headlines, something that grabs their attention. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to call out your audience. This is really important for Facebook because for the United States, the targeting options are a bit more limited, especially when you're running ads for housing. So you need to call out who you're speaking to. That's going to help the Facebook algorithm, and it's also going to grab the attention of the people that are on Facebook. So this is something like, attention homeowners, like, hey, like property, owners, like something like that. And then you want to address their pain points. So this is here, and I have some examples of this on the next slide, but you want to speak to what a motivated seller is actually going through, right? You want to provide your USPs, right? Like how you actually help people. And that's kind of the next thing, is present your offer. Obviously, for most of these ads, you're doing these are direct response marketing. So you're basically asking for a direct response from them. And so your offer basically obviously is a cash offer on their home in a certain amount of time. But the last thing really is the call to action. So after you go through all this, you have to tell them what to do, right? A lot of people won't even actually read the whole ad, but throughout the ad, you want to be telling them, like, click the next button, right? Click get offer, click learn more, like tell them what to do at every step of the process. That's much more important on Facebook than it is on Google. It's also important for things like Google too, but just because, like with Google, they're already searching for you. YouTube, they're already trying to solve their problem. Facebook, they might be, but probably not in that moment. So what you're doing is you're walking them through those steps a little bit, more than you otherwise would be. So this is an example. Like this is just one ad out of, like, I've got a whole ad library, and I just tried to find one that was just kind of, simple, had some good content in it. But this is just an example of ad copy, right? So what are we doing here? We're calling out the audience, right? Do you have a property you need to sell? Attention homeowners, right? Number 1, make sure that you pay attention to that first line, because on the ads, that's all that they're going to see, right? When they're scrolling through their news feed, they're going to see that top space, the image, and they don't see the rest of this content here unless they actually click on the see more button. So this first part, you need to pay attention to what you're actually putting there. So this is just like a little introduction, right? And then they get right into the pain points. Okay. And like the USPs, like how are you actually helping people? Like, and you're addressing what they're actually going through, what they're struggling with, right? And then presenting the offer down here, right? You could put maybe a link to your website so they can actually see, who you are and what you're about and other people you might have helped. And then of course, at the end, you've got your call to action, right? Which is where you're telling them what to do, directing them where to go. Let's see. Okay. So now these are just basic strategies. I've gone over some of this already, but what I like to do, use the Facebook ads library for ideas. Okay, that's number 1. So the Facebook ads library, you can go on this, you can just search ads library on Google, click into there. You do a search under the housing category across the US. put in like a keyword, like maybe cash offer, or you could even type in the name of a Facebook page of a competitor if you really wanted to. And you can literally see all of the ads that they are running. Okay, so if you know of like, okay, this is a wholesaler, they have this business, I'm gonna type in their name, you can see what ads they're running, and you can actually see like what is working well for them. And you'll start to see common patterns, because you'll see like, okay, a lot of this type of ad is running, or people are using a lot of like images like this or that. And there's a reason that those ads are on there, right? That they're using ads like that. It's probably because they work. They're either testing them, or they've been running them for a while, right? Those are really the only two options. Testing on Facebook is fairly fast compared to Google. You can actually test quite a bit pretty quick, and I'll get into that. But I've found that images of local distressed homes work much better. There's obviously a lot of creative things you can do. If you have something like Canva, you can put a lot of design and effort into these, especially with video. But you want to use distressed homes if you're going to use pictures of homes, because you don't want people on Facebook thinking that this is a buyer, or thinking that this is a home to buy. You don't want buyers coming through your ad. So using like really like junky houses, make them, like the images kind of bright, stand out. If there's like good color in there, that's important too. Certain colors stand out better than others, and it gets, it's that kind of disruption marketing you got. But like I said, we want to test sending them on or off platform, right? And so there's two type of campaigns you're going to use for that. I won't get too into that, but I like to use something called dynamic creative. This is a really good tool within Facebook when you're running and managing campaigns. You can test up to 10 images and videos at a time, right? So if you've curated on all your content, you can basically throw it all into there at once. You can test up to 5 ad copies at a time, and also 5 headlines. And so what this enables you to do is very quickly, you start running your ad, and you can just actually, Facebook will break down for you which of these are actually performing the best, where it's actually sending the money, and where people are actually clicking, and where you're getting results. And so what I like to do is I run that for a bit. I take out the stuff that is not performing. And then what I'll do is I'll add some more into it, and I'll run it again. And I'll repeat that process until I've really refined what's working well for that market. And by being able to test so much at once, you can really get like a good idea of what's going to work well fairly quickly. Let me take a drink of water. Okay. The other thing that you want to do is test open audiences versus interest-based audiences. Okay. Now this is not as important as it used to be, because Facebook has eliminated a lot of the interest, but basically what an interest is like, it's like a tagged keyword that's associated with your profile on Facebook. So you can actually search and look up what keywords are associated with your specific profile. But basically, like if you are on Facebook and you're clicking on things related to real estate, if you're joining real estate groups, if you're posting things about real estate, Facebook is going to put a little tag on your profile on the back end that says real estate, right? That's what you're interested in. So you can actually target people based on those interests. But for the housing category, in order to avoid discrimination, Facebook has somewhat limited it. So usually an open audience, which is where you're basically showing it to everyone in the market that you're targeting, that usually works better. So the ad copy becomes more important, because Facebook's going to look at your ad copy and your headline and what you actually wrote in there, and that's how they're going to tie it to the correct audience. That's based on their algorithm. So again, you want to test after you've optimized all this, then you start testing those lookalike audiences that I was talking about. That's just called a special ads audience for the housing category. And then you can start doing retargeting, and that's directly from your website. There's even a way that you can plug in your data that you've skip traced. You can put that directly into Facebook, and you can basically retarget. You can basically target those leads directly if they are on the platform. Or you can take all that skip trace data. You can put it into Facebook and say, Facebook, please make an audience that looks very similar to these people, if any of them are on your platform, and now I want to market to them instead. And I recommend don't do this unless you have over 10,000 contacts, by the way, just because Facebook's not going to be able to match all of those people to the actual website. Okay. So basically, now we're going to get a little bit more into kind of, I hope I'm not going too short on time here, but I want to get more into kind of the actual Facebook page and content. So this is kind of separate from ads, but this part here is related. So basically, when you have an inbound lead, when you have someone that's interested in what you do, who you are, maybe you can solve their problem. Maybe they're in that kind of cold to starting to warm up state. There are really only three types of people that are going to either look at your page, right, or your ad itself. The first type of person is really only going to look at the image and the headlines. That's it. They're just going to look at the first thing initially, then they're going to click through. And they really won't dig too deep, if that makes sense. Now, the second type of person, they will actually click on your profile. They'll click on your photos. They'll scroll down a little bit and they'll kind of just read headlines. They'll kind of just skim, but they will kind of check out who you are and what you do. The third type of person, and often these are the best type of leads because they are actually, their intent is a bit higher. They're going to go through, they're going to watch all your videos. They're going to look at all your testimonials. They're going to read all of your content, and they're really going to do their research on you to figure out, okay, can I, number one, trust this person? Are they credible? You know, like can they help me in my specific situation? So they're going to dig a little bit deeper. So the intent obviously there is higher. So you want to have your Facebook page, or, you know, even your website, whatever it is, wherever it is you're running traffic to, you want it to be able to accommodate all three of these people, right? So when you are building out your Facebook business page, these are just some kind of tips and things that I found to be useful. Number one, right, you want to have a similar color scheme across all of your photos and your content, right? That's just kind of common basic branding. But your profile pic, right, your banner, your page name for Facebook, they all need to communicate the same thing. And people should be able to look at what you have on there, right, your content. They should be able to know immediately who you are, what you do, what your offer is, how you help people, how they find more information, how they contact you. They should know this pretty quickly. It shouldn't take them too long to figure this out. And you want to fill out as much as you can on your actual page, right? Use all the real estate that you have on there, so to speak, and to fill all that out, right? So there is so this is just an example, and this is just a page of another wholesaler, I think, that I came across his page maybe a year and a half ago, and I just thought it was well put together. So I like to use this as an example. This is but this is basically a snapshot here of just like the first thing that you would see if you clicked on his page, right? So this is his banner. The house is fine, right? That's related to what he does. But immediately, right off the bat, you can see his offer is dead center, right? So immediately someone knows what he does, what he offers people. They know how to get in contact with him. They know where to find more information. His profile picture matches, and it also communicates the same message. Immediately, they're going to know who this guy is, what he does, who he helps, right? 416, I think, is the area code probably, but it says literally his page title is home buyer. So there's no confusion, right? So it's not like they look at your profile, they don't know who you are, they don't, right? They know immediately how you help and what you do, right? This is just some other examples here of like his content, right? Like, and this is kind of what I wanted to get into next, was just kind of like what's good to put on your page. But if you look here, like this is just a post, this part right here, it's video, right? So this is just basically a video of him explaining who he is, what he does, who he helps. But this what he wrote here could literally be used as an ad on Facebook if he wanted. This could be a short copy ad you could test out. Why? Because it's doing all the things that I mentioned earlier, right? It's calling out your audience, right? Are you looking to sell your home? It's addressing pain points, right? It's basically, I don't have the part down here, but then he says basically like, okay, like I've helped people in your situation, and if you'd like, I can help you too. It's very short, but that's kind of my point, is that you can use this across, you know, your ads, you can use it for your content. He puts all kinds of things on his page too as well, like, you know, houses that they've closed on, so that if someone comes to the page and was wondering like, okay, would they actually buy my house? Like, I don't know. Well, okay, here's a whole bunch of photos showing houses that they've closed on that they've purchased. So yes, they would, right? And there's other videos on there, testimonials, walkthroughs, before and after kind of stuff. But that's kind of what I wanted to get into in this next one. Basically, your content should be speaking directly to motivated sellers. Okay, so sometimes people will post on their Facebook page things about like, you know, business and motivation and stuff like that, and that's great. You know, and maybe making money or, you know, something like that. But you want to be speaking to your target audience. If you're going to be running paid ads from that page, right, that's who you want to be speaking to if they decide to click onto your page and look at who you are. I recommend posting 3 times per week, at least, if possible. Obviously the ads are going to do the bulk of your work, right? But when you're first building out your page, you want some content on there. But things that you can do is you can put articles or videos, basically talking about things that motivators, sellers are going to be dealing with, right? So you want to be talking about things like, you know, relocation, home repairs, inherited properties, or bad, like these are just ideas. But basically what you want to do is speak to what they are going through, situations that they might be dealing with, actually provide some of your knowledge in ways that you can help for free, right? So that they click on your page and they just see that you are speaking to their pain points. And then basically at the end, say, hey, like, if you want all this taken off your hands, like, we buy houses, or if you know anybody that's dealing with this, we're here, right? Again, photos of homes that you've closed on, before, after videos. These are all great things to have for content. Testimonials, basically, when you get a testimonial from someone that you've worked with, that you've done a deal with, all you need to do is when you make that video, just have them describe, you know, what their situation was before working for you, or not working for you, working with you, what it was like when they worked with you, how you helped them, and then where they're at now. And then obviously if they'd recommend you to others. That's like a good kind of format that you can use basically to get these testimonials. And that, I mean, if you put all that on your page, you're going to be set, and there's not going to be, I don't think, any issues. So the next thing I want to talk about is ad fatigue. So with Facebook, your ads will burn out. It's a matter of, are they going to burn out in 2 weeks if you're in a highly competitive market, and or is they going to burn out in 2-3 months from now, right? So it really depends, but they will burn out at some point, because the way this works is the Facebook algorithm will start to show your ads to a certain audience. Over time, that audience is going to see your ads multiple times, and you know they're going to get tired of them. They're not going to be clicking on them anymore, and so you need to start refreshing that, basically by switching up your creatives, your ad copy, different things like that, just to get the algorithm to kind of, you know, switch to a different audience. Because it's basically like if you are targeting all of Phoenix, for example, let's say you're just targeting Phoenix. Facebook's basically going to look at all the different stuff you have on your ads, all the interests that you've selected to show, like, you know, right, to try to match to, and they're basically going to try to show your ads to the lowest hanging fruit to get results for you as fast as possible. So it's basically going to take a slice, right? Facebook's going to take a slice of that audience, of all the people that live in Phoenix that you're targeting, and it's going to show it to them. And then over time, it might start to move and show it to another slice, but it kind of slows down, right? And the same people start seeing the ad over and over again. And so by refreshing that and by putting a new ad copy, changing your images, it now will show it to a different slice of Phoenix, so to speak. If that doesn't work initially, you can try different audiences as well. Like I said, the lookalike audience, but normally just changing the creative and the ad copy will help to do that. At one point I was managing, like I said, a whole bunch of these campaigns, and there were several that were dealing with ad fatigue at the same time, as well as some platform issues Facebook was actually having, and we were having to change these like every few days at that point. But that's not the norm, but it does happen at times. It's something to be aware of. I personally check campaigns every day just to check on this, but that's kind of like, it depends on how involved in this process you want to be. But basically, you want to pay close attention when your ads start spending over double what they like, when your cost per lead starts to become over double what it normally is, right? Or if you're not getting any leads for like 3-4 days, that's where you want to start to kind of pay attention, right? You should be getting at least, 1-2 leads every day, depending on how much you're spending. So that's kind of how I manage that and what I pay attention to. Last couple sections here is just on basically follow-up and responding to leads. So like I said, like content, branding, retargeting, all this kind of stuff, building out the system, having a YouTube channel, whatever, that's all for like SEO even. That's all for the long term. Okay. Some leads may be motivated right now, right? And those are going to be those hot leads. But some may not be. They still may be in those kind of cold to warming up stages as they're seeing your content, as you're retargeting them, as they're seeing your ads, right? And so they may become motivated later. So the point and the purpose of this is to stay top of their mind, right? To continue having content going out, to continue having your follow-up sequences, pinging them, to continue showing ads to these audiences, right? So that in 2 to 4 months, let's say down the road, or even 2 to 3 weeks down the road, when they are ready to sell, when they do get to that hot stage, you are the first one that they think of. That's the whole point, is staying top of mind. With Google PPC, something like that, because the psychology is a little different, because they're actively searching and trying to get offers at that point, following up with them fast and getting establishing that relationship with them before anybody else, that's the key thing there. I worked with a team out in Philly. This was like a couple of years ago, and they were doing both Facebook and Google PPC, and they had a team for the morning and they had a team for the night, just for responding to leads. So any lead that came through Google PPC, even if that lead put their information in at 2:30 in the morning, they'd get a phone call 2 minutes later. Within 2 minutes, they would call them. Didn't matter, because basically it's that same concept, right? Now, you wouldn't do that with Facebook. You wouldn't do that with Facebook leads or Instagram leads, because like I said, they could be cold, ice cold, warm, or hot at that stage. So basically, when you're going to follow up with them, yes, you have your automated sequences, getting in, establishing contact, maybe just sending a brief message initially, but you're not going to call them maybe right until the morning. But if it's during the day, you want to follow up within 5 to 15 minutes of getting those leads, because it's still fresh in their mind. So with the last little bit of time here I have before maybe we get into, I don't know if we're doing Q&A or something, but basically inbound leads, the difference between them and an outbound, right? When you're doing outbound to a list, is that these inbound leads have given you permission to contact them. So they have opted into your system, into your ads, right? They've basically said, yes, contact me, please, I'm interested. So you want to imagine what would be annoying to you if someone was to follow up with you, right? By text, by email, by phone, whatever, and then double that. It's a little bit counterintuitive maybe to some people, but they've given you permission, one, right? And so you have now permission to follow up with them. And then not only that, but because they're on Facebook and they were just scrolling and you interrupted them, their mind is like, it could be in multiple different states. And so you're going to want to be pinging them over and over and over again, right? Really, you're trying to get that initial response to start building that relationship, right? And so obviously automated follow-up works really well for there. You want it to be heavier the first 5 days and then continue it as long as possible. So the first 5 days, right? When they've put their information in and you're trying to get them on the phone, you want ringless voicemails, texts, emails, all that stuff going out. Like I said, we've already covered this here. When you are calling the leads, call at different times of the day. Not everyone's going to be available at the same time, right? During the day. I would call every day for the first 10 days if you're not able to get a hold of them. Obviously some people, their time, maybe they don't have time to do all this phone calling, but this is like, ideally, if you could, you want to be calling the leads that much. Something that a technique that I've heard works well. This is from another wholesaler that I've worked with. He said, basically call once. If they don't answer, call one more time, then leave your message. So don't call and then immediately leave a message, like call twice and then leave that message so that there's more likelihood that they'll pick up. And really the last little thing here that I'll mention is that when you're doing ads, make sure that you are managing the comments on the ads themselves. Okay. So people will sometimes leave nasty comments, right? Not everyone likes these kind of cash offer ads or, wholesalers or investors like that. Not everyone likes this stuff, right? And so you're going to get nasty comments on your ads sometimes. So manage that. You can just hide those comments. But the key thing to pay attention to here is that sometimes you will get a lead that won't put their information in. Instead, they will just comment and they're literally just leave their property address and say, hey, I'm looking to sell this property, as a comment on the bottom of the ad. And you don't want other wholesalers seeing that and reaching out to them before you. So if you see that, you basically just want to hide that. You basically send them a message first, try to get in contact with them, whatever, and then just hide it. You don't actually have to delete them, but just hide those so that other people, do not reach out to them rather than you. So that's that. I hope that that made sense and all this was helpful. But basically, like, this is just if you want to find more information about me, this is my Facebook business page, my Instagram, and my little Linktree link there. But that's all that I've got. I'm not sure if we were going to do Q&A or what we wanted to do next.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Derek. That was a wealth of information. You guys take yourself off mute and show Derek a little love and appreciation. Would you, brother? And sisters?
Thank you.
Thanks, Derek.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Derek.
Hey, thanks so much.
Appreciate you, man. So you guys, we've got about 10 minutes here. I'd love for you guys to have an opportunity to ask Derek any questions that you might have. I know that he gave you guys a ton of information, but that stuff was super valuable. You know, as Kyle and I have run ad campaigns ourselves, we know that it can be overwhelming. And with a lot of information that Derek shared, it may be a new information to you. It may be elementary to some of you. So this is your opportunity. If you've got questions, raise your hand and we'll call on you and ask away. So the floor is yours, you guys.